Hey everybody, welcome to Hugging the Cactus and the Keep Going podcast. I have a special guest today. I met this guy on a stream of mine. He's a fan and he showed up to one of our streams. He was so well spoken. I honestly just wanted to talk to him and talk about some of the topics we talked there, but a little bit more in depth. So guys, happy to introduce Lucifer Storm. What a name, man. That's your real name?
No, it's my pen name.
Okay, good.
The
wow.
Storm part is real, but the Lucifer part isn't. But don't tell everyone.
Don't tell us. Sure, we'll keep it between us. So happy to have you, Lucifer, here today as we talk about this topic of why does social media make us toxic? And I think, a lot of people who watch me see me calling out fandoms and certain, I'm not going to call them out today specifically here, but certain fandoms seem worse than others. But the reality is, I think social media is making us all a little toxic. It makes us all a little negative. And I thought it would be a good conversation to have, get your insight on this, share some of my stories, and hopefully talk about this topic. Before I do that, let's plug you, because I want to make sure people know what you are.
Yes, please.
You are a graphic novelist out in the UK. Mm-hmm. I have your Twitter up here so people can just know. But you've written some stuff. You have a current project called Lady Satan and a Killer and an Angel in a Killer's Dress. You're currently getting funds for. This is a new graphic novel you're trying to get done.
Yep, it is indeed. It's what I like to call an outlaw graphic novel. If you're easily offended, stay the hell away from this one.
Got it. At least you warn everybody. That's good.
Yeah.
But you can learn more about Lucifer over here. But yeah, so you popped up in a stream rather, we were talking about, and you had some interesting ideas about, let's start there, because people can sort of be impressed maybe, hopefully, or they'll tune out. It's their choice. But you were talking about everyone talks about how we are currently living in a culture war, but you think it's a war of the narcissists. Can you sort of elaborate for those maybe who missed that stream, sort of share your thoughts on that? Because I think a lot of people were impressed with your words on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do believe that culture is a part of it. I believe that what we call the culture war, that's the surface level that we're seeing, is that culture is being involved because it's something that's so close to all of us. But I do believe that deep down, the real problem is actually narcissism. And the reason I believe this is because I'm someone who was raised by a parent with narcissistic personality disorder. Now, this was something I didn't recognize early in my childhood. I just knew that something wasn't right. And as time went on, I found myself in a position where I ended up going to therapy and seeing counselors and discovering that, I had a parent with narcissistic personality disorder, and that had affected me so negatively throughout the entirety of my life. And this caused me to start researching it. Now, I'm by no means an expert in narcissistic personality disorder, but I've learned a hell of a lot about it. And it just seems to me that a lot of what we're seeing in these fandoms today, a lot of the aggravation, the arguments, the war that's going on, there does seem to be a lot of people who are showing symptoms of being narcissists or having narcissistic personality disorder. The knee-jerk emotional reactions, the way they try to punish or reprimand the people that they don't agree with, that they don't want saying those things, because deep down, a narcissist has a very unhealthy ego. It's kind of a conflict in their mind. There's this part of them that believes they are the be-all and end-all of everything, that they are the one, the savior of humanity. But they also have another part of their mind that's very, very insecure. And the mind doesn't want to acknowledge that part of it. So the ego tries to protect it. And in doing so, it becomes very unhealthy. So anything that kind of brings evidence or proof to the forefront, anything that holds a mirror up in front of the narcissist, the ego sees that and it acts aggressively. Rather than acknowledging facts and truth and evidence, it starts to lash out. And the normal go-to reaction is to start silencing people, start telling them, no, you're the one who's bad, and here's why: because you don't agree with me, you're bad. And their mind will do so much mental gymnastics in order to come to these conclusions. And once they've got those conclusions set in their head, there's nothing you can do to get rid of them. And they just think, no, I'm the good guy, I'm the saint, you're the bad guy, therefore I must punish you. And if you try to punish me for bad behavior, one of the first things they do is they go back in time They go as far back in time as they can. Well, they'll go, yeah, well, you think I'm bad for doing X? Well, what about this time when you did Y? And it could be in something that's not related. You could have been a child when that happened and didn't know any better. But they'll use that as a way of saying, you have no right to reprimand me for what I've just done, but I have the right to reprimand you for what you did years ago. And that's very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because I mean, I've been called a narcissist in my life. I feel like a lot of people sort of wonder, am I? Or, and especially if you're on YouTube and a personality on a podcast, if someone is out there trying to seek attention, it's you know, the reality is, I think that as you look up the definition, we have it here. I just wanted to make sure we're all talking about it. A person who is overly self-involved and often vain and selfish. Like that can describe a lot of people. These celebrities, a lot of people in there. But you know, as it gets more intense, like a real, I think the really scary, dangerous narcissist, right? It gets more like, as we get into narcissism, sort of the erotic gratification derived from admiration of one's own physical, mental attributes, being a normal condition in their infantile level of personality development. I guess it's an interesting topic. I mean, what is the difference between someone who is just like, you know, like a celebrity who feels like, yeah, no, I'm on a YouTube channel because I feel like I have important things to say and people want to hear me, and sort of putting yourself out there, which I think most people on social media are becoming, right, a little bit of a narcissist in themselves because they feel like their words and their thoughts have more meaning now because they're getting those likes, those dopamine hits of likes. Do you think there's like sort of a broader problem now of like, well, what are a lot of people narcissists now on social media, given like the power that we're giving them? Where do you sort of define where someone's like truly, you know, sort of the problem version of it? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, the first thing we have to establish is that there's two types of narcissist. You have an overt narcissist and a covert narcissist. Now, the overt narcissist is very easy to see. They are someone who begins every sentence with I, but it's very rarely self-deprecating. It's very rarely humorous. It's more the kind of thing of, I'm saving the world because I just recycled a can. Did I tell you about I? So
yeah, the type of person who doesn't ask how you're doing, only calls to sort of ask other. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, those kind of narcissists are very common. And I mean, for all we know, we could be them and we just don't realize it because narcissists don't.
Yeah.
You know, and then you've got the covert narcissist. Now, the covert narcissist is someone who, when they're out in public, they're all smiles and they try to be the hero, the saint, but behind closed doors, it's a very different story. They'll still be very focused on themselves. There'll be a lot of I want, I need, I want. And that's where it starts getting a bit tricky because it's okay to turn around and say, hey, you know, I need some air. But it depends on how much they do this I business. So that's the first thing we have to establish is that there's the two types, and it's very hard. If you don't know a lot about narcissism, it's very hard to spot people who are narcissistic. And unfortunately, narcissism and narcissist, these are words that have become very popular, but not a lot of people actually know what they mean, and they just throw them about. They think it means a selfish person. And a narcissist is a lot more than just someone who's selfish. Correct. At the end of the day. And with social media, we have that power now to say, I don't like what this person's saying, so I'm going to block them. I'm going to mute them. So you can't form a healthy ego. You can't form a healthy perspective of yourself. Because every time someone says, hey, look, you know, I'm just trying to help you out, man. You know, I'm just letting you know, what you did just then, that was a bit selfish, man. Like, come on, think about it. You can just shut them out. Whereas in the real world, you can't shut those people out.
Right. But I mean, it's interesting you point that out because to me, so getting back to the point of sort of the topic above us, the sort of why is social media making us toxic? Is it making more of us more narcissistic, right? Is a question. I guess I also want to sort of show the definition of toxic. What's the signs of a toxic person? Here's WebMD. Again, we're not doctors. We're just having a conversation. But I found this is an interesting definition. If you know someone who's difficult and causes a lot of conflict in your life, you may be dealing with a toxic person. These people can create lots of stress, unpleasantness for you and others, not to mention emotional or even physical pain. A toxic person is anyone whose behavior adds negativity and upset to your life. Many times people who are toxic are dealing with their own stresses and traumas. To do this, they act in ways that don't present them in the best light and usually upset others along the way. Toxicity in people isn't considered a mental disorder, but there could be underlying mental problems that cause someone to act in toxic ways, including personality disorder, et cetera, et cetera. But, even by that definition, a lot of people could find themselves, depending on something they're going through, their own real life stresses or issues in life. I think we've all been to a point where we've been toxic. And I think it's social media, absolutely a lot of people, I think, have probably unaware joined a mob, right, to pile on to somebody or criticize someone sort of because they're on a keyboard versus would you have said the same thing as directly to their face. There's a lot of things that I think the internet and social media has sort of allowed us to do in a way that's given us more freedom to just sort of say things, right, and potentially sometimes that's too negative. And so I want to talk about that, but also you mentioned blocking people can sort of turn you into put you in a bubble, make you grow your own ego. But, I block a lot of people just because I don't want the toxic negativity to knock me down more pegs. And to share a quick story, it's like, I'm not here to knock on a certain fandom, but I've noticed if I engage on social media for a certain amount of time to people who are attacking me and I feel like I get defensive, right? And I want to sort of respond and sort of defend, misinformation or, stuff out there. I notice it doesn't help. It's a condition I'm working on of trying to put it down, ignore it, move on. Don't talk to a person with 3 followers. Who cares what they think? It's stuff I'm always working on. But I just know I can imagine if somebody out there doesn't have that wherewithal to realize or been working on themselves to all right, I got to put this down and better myself. And that's all they're doing all day long. That's got to be creating a very dangerous and toxic and unhappy person who's literally on the computer all day attacking, criticizing, and they're especially when they're behind an anonymous sort of screen and stuff. What is your thought on this? Sort of is blocking that negativity? You don't think that's a problem, right? I mean, creating a safe space from the hatred out there isn't what you meant, or is it?
No, it's not what I meant. I mean, the block button is a double-edged sword at the end of the day. It's all about people's intentions. That's something that we seem to neglect as we get further and further into social media, that some people just have some good intentions. Maybe some people haven't got very good tact when it comes to that thing. And there are some people out there who just want to ruin your day. So you have to learn how to spot who those people are. And like you said, they're probably people that you've never met before, you've never spoken to before. They've got 1 or 2 followers, and all of a sudden they're coming at you and they're throwing every single name at you under the sun because they want to feel better in themselves. Okay, if this is someone who's narcissistic and they're doing this to you, they're being a toxic person to you online, they feel real bad inside. That insecurity is there and it's fighting with their very fragile ego. And they could either put energy into saying, hey, you know what? My life ain't great. What do I want to do? How can I make stuff better for me? How can I make life really enjoyable? Or they can get that quick fix, because that's what's happening online all the time. We are in that day and age where we want something and we want something 5 minutes ago. And once that's finished, we want something else about 10 minutes ago. We've got all this stuff coming at us all the time. We're not actually taking that time to take a deep breath, walk away from the screen, and just decompress for a second. Take a look at what the real world is. We're getting glued to our screens, and I'm guilty of that myself, man. Several years ago, I had an iPhone, and every 5 minutes I'm on it, tapping away at it. And after a while, I was like, why am I paying like $40 a month
to be
for
addicted
a black
to this
brick that I used to ignore people?
It's so true. But it's so hard. It's like they've made it so, it's so convenient. It's fixing our lives. No, it's I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, which there's so many topics. The narcissist, I'm just trying to keep us organized on what the topic was, because I'll happily have you back. We can have more of these, but you're so spot on and everything. I agree with everything you're saying. It's like, and I think social media, though, back to sort of wrapping up what we're trying to talk about, why is it making us toxic? I think all these things are affecting those reasons, right? But so for me, at least, and I'm curious your thoughts, like everything you said, there's a lot, whether it's narcissism, whether insecurities, whatever the clarification, the classification the person's under, they're just unhappy in life, right? All those things are sort of, I think some can pile up. And you just start. It's rare for people who only do positive on social media. I think even if you don't engage or write negativity, you're reading negativity, even just by accident, scrolling through your feed, seeing headlines. A lot of it is there to sort of tear down, and be negative, be hateful. And so it's hard to like not just have it all seep through. I think it's Twitter, and especially, is really sort of a really scary place of, I think it makes us all less good people, because we're all sort of there engaging and trying to one up each other and come in and fight, either fight back or fight whatever. And it's not I think a healthy place to be. When I got canceled for 3 years ago, like the most beautiful thing that actually benefit of it all, and sort of thing that really helped me better myself, was I went offline for the year. Like there was a month or so where I was sort of trying, well, what's happening, what's being said, and I'd have to check once in a while. But there was a point where I didn't post. Like I couldn't post. What was I gonna post? I wasn't legally allowed to post. And being offline for that year was so freeing and amazing, And having lived that world and then met some, had a life, it was incredible. And I'll be honest, I miss that life, because now I've come back in the spotlight. And I have to be on Twitter to an extent to like do what I do for a living. And I can see it often like bleeds into, and I think it's a problem for a lot of people, where it's like, yes, it's great to throw away the phone or get offline for a year, but realistically in the world we live in, it's hard to really do that for long periods of time, especially if you're reporting on entertainment news, which is what pays my bills. So I'm constantly juggling with that sort of like, how do I make sure I log off enough or not engage to like keep my brain healthy and like be there for others. And I think, I just think I can't imagine that's not affecting other people too. And even in the small extent of, I'm online, but I see so many people on there. I just feel like they're always replying and always engaging. And I'm guilty of it totally. But what are your thoughts? Like, I mean, that is clearly, we need to learn how to make a diet of social media of like an hour a day, or it is junk food. I feel like for our entire body and mental health. What do you think?
I completely agree with you, man. I mean, like, being a graphic novelist, like most comic book readers and graphic novel readers, where are they? They're on social media. They're online. So if I want to reach them and say, hey, look, I've got this book, it's either going to make you very upset or it's going to make you very happy, I need to go to them. And unfortunately, they're leaving the stores by the droves. And with everything that's going on in the world, a lot of the stores are closed, so they can't even go there. So they're all online. So it is a handy tool. But we do need to learn to have a little detox every now and then, to ration ourselves and stuff. And I know, like, I'm sounding like a parent here, and I don't mean to, but
I think, but you're right. Yeah, it's important. Somebody's got to say it. So we're both saying it. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this kind of ties into like why I started going to therapy and stuff. But many years ago, I was dating a wonderful, wonderful woman, and we had been together for so long. I miss her very dearly. She meant the world to me. Unfortunately, her mother was a narcissist, and she didn't realize this. And our relationship was going happy. I was getting ready to propose to her. I had this ring that was $3,000, a lot of diamonds. And all of a sudden, her mother came in and was like, you know what? I don't like these two being together, because all of a sudden, my daughter isn't close to me. I can't keep an eye on her. I can't control her, kind of thing. So she started spreading rumors about me to her daughter, who then believed them. And, I can't blame her for that. She really should have spoken to me first. But I can't blame her for saying, hey, my mother's trying to protect me, so I'm going to believe her. Why would she lie to me? And she ended up breaking it off, and I had a very expensive, fancy ring that did not suit me or fit any of my fingers. And, that's when I started going to therapy and stuff. And I realized very quickly that I was hurting. I was hurting in a way that couldn't be fixed. Even going to therapy, like, that definitely helped. And I was going there a lot, but it didn't solve the problem of well, how can I be heard? I've just been silenced here. I wasn't allowed a chance to speak. When I did try to speak, because what she had done was defamation of character, I sought out legal advice. They sent a letter to her mother saying, hey, look, sort this out because you really don't want this to go to court. Next thing I know, she's called the police claiming harassment. And I've got the police on my doorstep saying, is this really from a solicitor? And of course it is. It's not got my home number on there, has it? It's got the actual office on there. And that meant that I found it very hard to deal with that problem. And I started going online a lot. And I was probably moody as hell. I was probably rude to some people. And if I was, I am sorry to those people. But it's because I couldn't fix that problem. And then all of a sudden, being online all the time was the problem. So I just got rid of it. That's part of the reason why I got rid of my smartphone. And I've never gone back to a smartphone. And all of a sudden, I'm going outside and I can hear birds singing. And it's lovely. I'm going on walks. I'm interacting with nature and it's absolutely brilliant. And now, because of taking that time away from being online, I mean, I took a good 6 months to a year of not going on the computer to speak to people on social media. Like I would go on there to start doing my work or whatever, but I wouldn't actually connect online. And because of that, I had more time where I was just looking at the world. I was examining myself and saying, well, hey, some of this is my fault and some of it is their fault. And I need to take responsibility for what's my fault. And, because of this led to me looking after wild foxes, which is such a wonderful experience that I can't even describe it to people. But I would have missed out on that if I just stuck to being online and going, hey, you know what? I'm miserable, so I'm going to make you miserable and you miserable and you miserable.
Yeah. No, I relate to you so much. The parallels of our story, it's fascinating to get to know you. I mean, when I had my year offline, not only did I meet the amazing person I'm with and had start a family, but I also went out to do, I used the internet to find it, but I used meetup.com and found an amazing group of friends that met at a local bar to play board games every, Wednesday night. My Nerd Brew friends, you guys are awesome. But you need to get, I think there's ways to use it healthily, just like anything, right? The internet
Absolutely.
obviously is a tool and you can use it, but it's so easy for us to fall into it and overuse it and over-rely on it. And then it becomes an obsession. And I think I've been there. I'm just like, well, now what do I do? What is happening there? And it's just, I think it really is. You just got to throw it away sometimes. Be like, every time I throw it, and I get that click of wait a second, just shut it off for a second. Think about it again in the morning. I never follow up and do it. It's the same thing. Sometimes you write that nasty email to someone and you're like, I got to get this off my chest. Yes. And then the saved draft and all right, sleep on it. And then the next year, I'm so glad I didn't send that email. I think it's the same thing with social media. We need to take a break. We need to learn how to pause it. And I think people, if anything, I hope the quarantine has probably made it worse, right? But I hope we can learn to take a quarantine from that at some point too, right? Where it's once we get back to the real world, I hope people actually get off of streaming movies and phones and get back out there and go travel and do the things they do. Because I gotta back what Lucifer says. When I took that time off, it was a healthy time. And I constantly am like, crap, I got to figure out a way to do what I do without having to be online on Twitter, because it can really mess with your head. And I'm sure some of you out there, share your stories down below in the comments, let us know. But I see beyond just the fandom, just to wrap it up here, just beyond sort of the toxic fandoms I often criticize. I think it makes us all a little toxic if you keep falling down the Twitter hole. And it's better to sort of be aware, catch yourself and stop it and try to tune out and log off once in a while, then feel the need to respond or pile on or do the things that we want to do. So good conversation. I hope this helps somebody out there, and I want to have more with you. But final thoughts from you as we wrap up this segment?
My final thoughts are this. Don't think that social media is evil, because believe you me, I have met some wonderful people through social media. Hell, I wouldn't be sat here having this conversation with you if it wasn't for Twitter. And this is awesome. I'm really enjoying getting to know you, especially after seeing your content ever since the Scream Junkie days, So don't fall into that trap of thinking that social media is evil. Just learn more about yourself. Remember to take time to look in the mirror and be like, okay, that's who I am. Here's my strengths. Here's my weaknesses. How can I make my life better? Because it's up to you. If your life is that bad where you're miserable and you're attacking people online, look, I feel for you. If I could, I would reach out and give you a hug, because I'm a big hugger. right? But it is up to you. It all starts with you. And whether you believe you can or cannot do it, you're right.
No, well said. And I think the other lesson for me is hearing you say that. It's like, I think we all still make mistakes, and we all will make mistakes, and we will all be toxic in a way that I think we don't realize to somebody, whether because we don't like them or because we're in our own bad mood. It's going to happen, even I think without you knowing. And I think the key is to like, yeah, it's going to happen. It doesn't mean we have to keep calling people out and hating on them. And he's toxic. He's toxic. No, we're all human is what the reality is, right? And I think the thing that's going to help is rather than call them out, even if you do accidentally call them out, whatever, the biggest thing you can do is shut it off. Shut it off and step outside. Go for a walk. See some sunlight. Find a hobby that doesn't involve the internet. Use the internet to find those things, great, but make sure you're fitting in that time to get yourself out there and do it. It is the best advice, and I think it will make everyone a lot happier. And finding that happiness within, I think, is really the crucial thing. And you're not going to find it on the internet. It's just not. I mean, no. You could find methods to to find the happiness using the internet, but you got to get off the internet and have human interactions and activities to really get yourself mobile and just moving. It's amazing, Lucifer. Like some people just don't even, they're on Twitter all day. They're not even getting off behind the desk or the chair. And just the act of standing up, right? It's like, stand up. I'm doing it right now. Stand up, everybody. You got to stand and shake it because it'll energize you in a way. So everybody watching, stand up. Get out there, have some fun. Lucifer, so awesome to have you here. Let me plug while I'm standing. Let me plug your stuff again one more time. Go to his Indiegogo, which is right here. Lady Satin, Angel in a Killer's Dress. I will put the link in there if you want to support this man. If you want to have him back, let me know. And here's his Twitter if you want to reach out to him. Really think he's had some wise words. Again, though, neither of us are doctors. Don't take any of this seriously. We're just having a conversation. But if you got a topic or guest you want to suggest, hit me up in the comments down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and check out these other interviews. These are coming out every Tuesday here on the channel. I'm going to try and figure out a way to do more. Tell me some topics you want to hear covered on this channel, and I'll do them for you. Thanks for watching, everybody.